All right, here we are, Every Sport Today. You guys already know what the deal is, except for the people on YouTube watching us for the first time ever. Look, wave to the cameras. Woo, look, there's people behind the screen looking at us. We are joined by Mr. Jakey Tutties, who you guys know and you've seen through our clips, but first time through YouTube. So, very special day.
Nick, I actually got knighted in Cabo this past weekend, so it's Sir Jakey Tutties.
Sir Jakey Tutties. You went to Cabo this weekend? Jeez.
That's what you said.
Do you get knighted in Cabo? Is that something they can do down there?
Lots of stuff happened at night in Cabo.
That's a fair point. Great start to the podcast. We are here. We are talking football. It is Jakey Tutties, so you know it's football time. There were a lot of touchdowns today. There were a lot of interesting score lines. There were a lot of playoff battles on the line. And we are going to break down all the action. Just as a heads up for the people listening to this, there is still 1:17 left in the Vikings-Lions game, but the Lions are currently winning 31-9. So if anything changes, I will let you guys know. Let's start here. Vikings, Lions, come out strong. Lions look great. You know, Vikings were holding in there, couldn't convert in the red zone. It just kind of felt like they couldn't really get anything going. And then, you know, it really flipped on its head and they still couldn't get anything going, and the Lions were unstoppable at that point. So, Lions get the 1 seed. Vikings are going to fall to that 5 seed. The Lions kind of prove themselves as the 1 seed. Let's get your kind of breakdown on the Lions. Did this prove everything that you needed to see out of the Lions and say, yes, you guys are the 1 seed. We know you're the best team in the NFC. Let's see you go try and compete for a Super Bowl. Did this kind of encapsulate how their season has gone so far for you?
I wouldn't say like it was like I feel like this is fitting to be the team that's number 1 seed. Like they've played all season like the number 1 seed. Everyone said they're going to be the number 1 seed. They look like the number 1 seed, especially after this game. They beat the teams that they needed to beat. They have a couple weird losses. That's to be expected throughout the season. They looked utterly dominant. I think the big takeaway, if I'm a Lions fan, if I am the Lions, is that their defense looked really good. And even though Terrion Arnold went out with it looks like an ankle foot type deal.
Yeah, it looked like he got stepped on weird. Yeah.
His cleat got caught in his teammate's pants or something like that. Something weird. Total freak accident. I mean, Anzalone was back out there, and he can get cooked in coverage sometimes, but I think he's a pretty important piece on that defense just as his energy and his leadership. And
he shut down Hawkinson today.
Yeah, Hawkinson was negated entirely in this game, and he's a huge piece of their offense in the middle of the field. And he was basically nothing.
There was no Hawk Tua today. No Hawk Tua.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Good old Hawk Tua reference. Got to get it in there. Continue.
Let me just pull the rug on your joke and move on. It was weird watching the Vikings in the red zone because it did not feel like they were doing their best stuff out there. I really felt like O'Connell was holding something back, and they did miss the throw on the double route that Jefferson was wide fucking open.
Yes.
Like he couldn't have been more open. Just a plain overthrow. But the rest of it is just a lot of crossing patterns, and they were playing like a man-up zone. And, I mean, the Lions were sticking to him pretty well. No one was getting super open. I mean, there were probably windows here and there, but they were also getting home. It was probably the worst that the Vikings have looked in the games that I've watched them on as far as their offensive line goes. And that's concerning that they weren't able to get him more time and that they were able to drop as many people in the coverage, especially considering how banged up the Lions are. I don't know. It was weird watching the Vikings be so efficient and so able to score. And they also didn't run the ball in the red zone. They kind of would run it on first down and then would just give up on the run after that. They were also in weird spots. It's hard to run the ball from the 5-yard line on second down in the red zone. I still think they should have given it at least another shot throughout the 12 opportunities that they had. It felt like they threw the ball 12 or like 10 of the times. They only ran it twice in the red zone. They didn't take advantage of their turnovers, and they just started getting carved up on defense. I think the defense got tired ultimately, and I mean, Gibbs looked like freaking Chris Johnson out there near the end of the game. He was just one of the best games of the year by far. 4 touchdowns. And it wasn't just like he walked in. Like, he was creating plays. He was getting himself open. He was doing stuff to earn those touchdowns. So, unreal game by Gibbs, and generally disappointing by the Vikings. But I like their situation right now. I think they'll be fine. I do expect them to get to the second round at least. I don't know what happens after that. I think it would have been nice to have the home field advantage, but this is clearly an overshot for the Vikings this year. I think if you're a Vikings fan, you can take this season away and be like, we really accomplished something this year. Being competitive in the first round would still be a win considering what we were expecting from the season, you know?
Yeah, exactly. A couple things to what you said. 36 minutes of possession to 23 minutes of possession, Lions over the Vikings. It felt like the Lions just kind of controlled this game, did whatever they needed to, ran the ball super well. Just kind of felt like they were doing a lot of things that they had to do to get the job done, and Gibbs was a huge part of that. 139 on the ground, 3 touchdowns, a receiving touchdown. Just felt like they could do whatever they wanted. I do think the Anzalone piece was actually key for them. I think it's just kind of like, I feel like we see this all the time, like late in the season or towards the playoffs, where it's just like, you get one guy back on a banged up defense or a banged up offense, and just suddenly everything is like good. Everything's fine again. It just feels like you get that one guy back, and you could still have a bunch of other injuries, right? You could still have even more injuries pile on, like Terry and Arnold going down. But it just feels like everything's solved once you get that one guy back. And it feels like Anzalone's that one guy for the Lions. I feel like Hutchinson might be also that guy, but he's done for the year at this point. So, yeah, Lions, they impressed me. They were dominant in this game. They did everything they needed to do, and their defense stepped up huge when, they're banged up and everyone was kind of counting them out, including myself. The Vikings...
You've been shitting on the whole 4th down thing all year. Just, how does he keep getting away with it? How does he keep getting away with it? And they won the game on the back of that. Like, they completely shut down. Like, I mean, they probably win if they don't get that 4th down or if they kick the field goal. But they really cemented it with the turbo set call that's setting them up all game. Just all game. Just like giving a dog a piece of pretzel and letting him salivate. And then you pull out the pretzel bag and you don't pull out the pretzel, and he just jumped at it, and it was impressive. It was a great call.
When you break it down the way, when you break it down the way that they did on the telecast, talking about the turbo set and everything like that, it is really impressive. Like, it's pure genius. And
like, it's you go into the game like understanding that you'll be in a 4th and short situation, and what would you say if they're 4th and short within their own 40? This game, it seemed like they were going for it. Like, they are so confident in their offensive line that they will take extreme risks because of how good that line is. And I don't know if it's drafting or if it's their coaching, but their offensive line is just it's basically since the first season that Campbell started, which they did terribly. After that, their line has been really fucking good.
I mean, they've got 2 Pro Bowlers on the offensive line, 5 on the offense in total, including those 2, Amon-Ra, Gibbs, and Jared Goff. Like, it's insane how much talent is on that offense. And to your point, like, that's why I didn't like that one 4th down call where they decided to throw for it and he got tipped and it gets deflected. Like, they were in a good position to go for it. I was fine with the call, but it's like, why pass in that situation? Like, there are just so many times where they can run the ball there. It just feels like they get that every single time. And yes, I know Montgomery's not there anymore, but Gibbs gets that every single time. The 4th down conversions, 2 for 4 for the Lions, 0 for 3 from the Vikings. That was also a big deal in this game. Vikings, once again, like you said, it just didn't feel like they were throwing everything out there. I don't know whether that was a Kevin O'Connell decision. I don't know whether that was a, lack of Aaron Jones consistency being kind of in and out of the lineup. whether they were just being blanketed in one-on-one coverage all day. Like, there were a lot of things that were going on in this game that just weren't going the way of the Vikings, but I still felt like there was more to give. So that was my concerning point with the Vikings here. It just felt like there was more that they could throw out there, and they didn't really throw it out there. So we'll talk about that Rams matchup in a little bit, but that'll be an interesting one. All right. Lions are the 1 seed. Vikings are the 5 seed. Let's talk about the other NFC playoff implications from this weekend. Let's start. You want to start with the South? How much do we care about the South? We care about the South.
I think that was the most entertaining aspect of the first.
It was definitely the most entertaining aspect throughout the games, but the last minute.
The last one was the Packers and the Commanders.
Yeah, the last minute of Packers Commanders was very interesting. But
Packers went from, if we do the game odds or whatever, they went from like a 95% chance of being the 6th seed to like 0 in probably 5 minutes of real life. Like it was incredible. It was utter insanity.
It was awesome. Let's start with the South though. Buccaneers come out on top against the Saints. They get to 10-7. They also, we don't need to talk about the Rams matchup too much, but with the Rams loss, the Buccaneers actually jump up to the 3 seed as well. The Falcons do fall out of the playoffs. Obviously, they lost the Panthers in overtime, but at that point, it didn't really matter. Both games were kind of back and forth. Both games you were watching and being like, well, the Falcons could sneak in here. There was a lot of that on the line. But what did you think about, we talked basically throughout the day. You were like, yeah, I think the Falcons are the more fun team to get in the playoffs. I thought it was the Bucs. Talk to me about how you feel about the Bucs being the 3 seed going into the playoffs, having a team, and we'll get to the preview against the Commanders in a second, but like having a home matchup in a 3 seed situation where they won last year or 2 years ago against the Eagles last year, right? Yeah, last year against the Eagles, where they have that momentum, they have that confidence that they could say, hey, we have home field advantage. We know we can win one. How do you think that plays into their psychology and saying, yeah, we got to that 3 seed. We have a home game. We're pretty happy. Worst case scenario, we have to go to the Eagles, who we beat last year in the playoffs. That seems pretty good for us. How do you feel about their confidence going into the playoffs?
I think they got to feel okay. They're just not as talented as the other teams in the playoffs. I feel like it's a pretty sharp disparity between like position-wise, defense, just across the board. I think the Buccaneers are a step below the other 6 playoff teams in the NFC.
I think that's fair.
And I mean, you could say the same thing about the Falcons, but with the Bucs, we kind of know what we're getting. Like, we've seen Baker. We've seen him in the playoffs. We've seen Mike Evans. We've seen this Buccaneers defense. Very tough to run against, tough to control the clock. But you can throw on them a little bit, throw on them deep. You can run up the score against them, and sometimes they fold, sometimes they beat. It's really, they have a weird pattern of like folding and then bashing the other team's head in. They seem to be able to beat up on bad teams and at least stay in games somewhat with good teams, but sometimes they fall apart against good teams. So I don't know. I wanted to see Penix. Like, I have really high hopes for the Falcons at the future. I think they have a really good young core on offense. I think Bijan and Drake London are like absolute studs in their position. Mm-hmm. Drake London definitely took a step this year. Bijan Robinson is absolutely a top 5 running back in the league at this point. And Penix looks like the real deal, in my opinion. How do you feel about Penix? Like, do you think he would have been interesting to watch in the playoffs?
I still think it's early for Penix is the only issue. I just don't think we've seen anything outstanding from him yet, but he has been really solid, and that team feels like it's coming together, and it feels like they're going to be coming together for a long time, right? Like, this feels like they have settled in their future with the combo of Penix, Bijan, Drake London. Like, that 4 right there is really solid. Like, I mean, think about, the other cores in the league of a young quarterback, a young running back, and a young wide receiver. There isn't much better than that. That's pretty damn good. However, I'm not ready to take it to that next step and be like, the Falcons are the future of the NFC. Like, they're going to win the NFC in 3 years. I don't think I'm to that point yet because we haven't seen Penix. I would have liked to see him in the playoffs so we could know if he was going to be in that level in 3 years or not. But we don't have that capability. And so I just don't know if I can say that he's going to be there yet. So like, I still like better younger quarterbacks. I still like Caleb Williams better. I know Caleb was a little iffy this year, but I still like Caleb Williams. I still like Jaden Daniels. I still like Drake May. Like, I still think I have Penix as the 4th best quarterback coming out of this draft. And that's kind of saying a lot. Oh, yeah, Bo Nix. Yeah, 5th. So, yeah, it's...
Well, here's the thing, is that this draft feels like really what is going to be one of the main quarterback drafts. Like, after this season, in retrospect, it feels like it's going to be one of the main quarterback drafts that we like look back on, like the 2004 type, where like Eli Manning, Phillip Rivers, Ben Roethlisberger. I think there might have been one other guy in that draft.
Go ahead.
Where you have like guys who are in the league for a long time. I think one or two of these guys are going to flame out. It's natural. Right now, probably the biggest chance of that is Penix, because we don't have a full season of stuff on him.
Exactly.
And it's really, he comes out, he has a really good first half. I feel like that's been pretty much all 3 games that he's played. He's had big first halves. And then the second half, he just doesn't do as well. I don't really know what it is. The thing about the Falcons is, I was watching the game, I was like, if they win and the Lions lose, that's just going to be an absolutely miserable game to watch, because the Lions are going to run for like 245 yards, because the Falcons could not just do anything against the Panthers. Of all teams, they could not stop the Panthers. So,
do you think the Falcons will spend a first-round draft pick on a defensive player this year?
Yeah, they need an edge. They need someone, either an edge or a defensive tackle, someone who can force some pressure on the offensive line, because Bryce Young I think he made he could have opened up a Jersey Mike's in the backfield. He was making so much time to throw the ball.
But they should trade up for Abdul Carter or James Pierce. That's what they should do. Real quick, 2 things on the quarterback classes. One, we didn't even talk about J.J. McCarthy, who, injured all year, who's probably going to be traded to a team like, the Titans or I don't know, one of those teams that need a quarterback. Like, the Vikings are most likely to just re-sign Sam Darnold and just trade away JJ. I think that makes the most sense for them.
What about the Steelers?
The Steelers could be, yeah. Here's the thing. JJ McCarthy is good, and people have talked about, in comparison to this draft, JJ McCarthy would be the number 1 quarterback in this draft upcoming. So it's like he was the, 6th quarterback taken in the last draft, and then got hurt and hasn't played all year, and they still think of him higher than Shador or Cam Ward. So that says a lot. Also, I think I've talked about this on the college football podcast, but like in 3 years, there's a possibility that we might get like Arch Manning, Dylan Raiola, DJ Lagway, Nico Iamaleava. Like, that would be an insane quarterback class. Like, those guys could just go 1 through 4 right then and there. So
those guys' names are too hard to pronounce, so they're not going to be that good.
It's fucking Lagway time. God,
I'm sorry, but the more syllables a quarterback's name has, the less likely they're going to be a star.
You'll hate Nico Iamaleava then.
Yeah, that's too, like, there's a reason Vinny Testaverde wasn't like the greatest quarterback of all time. There's just too many syllables. Like, it's got to be like 3. Randall Cunningham. That's 3. That's the best I can give you. Culpepper, like, those guys are like the end of the spectrum. Like, weird last names that still are within that 3-syllable. Roethlisberger, that's
stretching
the weirdest one. That's a stretch.
That's the furthest that you can go. That's why Garoppolo sucks.
Probably. Yeah, dude.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, listen, Bucs move on to the playoff. Falcons, they'll be back next year. I hope they invest in their defense finally. That would be pretty cool if they invested in their defense and got a little bit better. Like, dude, yes, they got Penix, and yes, Penix looks good, and Kirk Cousins was the wrong choice. But, like, if they would have drafted Jared Verse, this team would have been so good. Like, Jared Verse has been incredible.
They would not have been good because fucking Kirk Cousins sucked. He was terrible.
He was bad down the stretch.
And you know what was funny? have you ever seen a backup quarterback wear their helmet all fucking game?
That's fair.
He was wearing it all game. And he's like, yeah, Kirk Cousins been really supportive. He's really been trying to step up. And he's literally sitting there like ready to go in the game more than any other backup quarterback I've ever seen during an NFL game before.
Yeah.
He wanted to play so bad, and he doesn't have it. You can't give these guys deals after. At least the Jets didn't sign Aaron Rodgers to like a long-term deal. They just gave up a bunch of shit for him.
Yeah, that's true.
Would you rather give up a bunch of shit or
Sign
give up
someone
a
for a
bunch of
massive
money?
contract? I think I would rather sign someone for a massive contract and have it not work out.
Do you understand a single thing about the NFL? Because
Here's the thing.
I don't. I do not understand it at all.
Here's why I say that, because I really don't know enough about the NFL cap, but I say it because we've seen it work out for teams where they can just buy out players and figure something out.
Yeah, like
Cowboys did it with
every
Zeke.
every team in the NFL is like the Miami Heat.
Yeah.
Like they figure shit out without
Exactly. Yeah.
any
Cowboys did it with
consequences.
Zeke. Broncos did it with Russ. Like Broncos literally did it last year. Had to give up a bunch of money to let go
the
of
biggest
Russ.
example is the Rams. Like everyone thought the Rams were literally fucked.
Exactly.
And they've been a really good team the past 2 years that you don't want to play.
Exactly. So, yeah, I would rather give up the money than give up the assets. I think the assets are more important, especially draft picks. So, Buccaneers, a couple things I'll say on the Buccaneers before we move on. I actually don't mind them in their matchup. We'll talk more about it later, but the key, I know you're not going to like this, but there's two guys that this team needs. And, obviously Chris Godwin's hurt. That would be another guy, but Chris Godwin's not coming back. There's two guys that this team needs. One is Cade Otton, who's been out for like 3 weeks now. Cade Otton's really good. He's been really good for them all year. Gives them another tight end option. Obviously, they've been throwing to Culp and Durham, and they've been fine. But the other guy they need is freaking Rachaad White. Like, they need to have a little bit of passing out of the backfield. And Bucky Irving has not really been that type of guy. Rachaad White is. He's been able to get those receptions out of the backfield. It fills up the stat sheet really well. It just feels like a different dynamic to their offense. If they get those two guys back for the next game, I like their odds. Obviously, Godwin being hurt kind of hurts them even more, but Bucky Irving's good. Just give Bucky Irving all the carries, and then Rachaad White, just let him be a third down back at this point. Like, if they were to be good, not talking fantasy football purposes, but. All right. Commanders, Packers. Let's talk about this. Commanders flip it around. They score a touchdown in the last seconds to Terry McLaurin to go to 12-5. And the Packers lose to the Bears for the first time in 22 games, I think was the number, 22 straight that the Packers had beaten the Bears. And the Bears, with Cairo Santos, walks it off with a 51-yard field goal to send the Packers down to the 7th seed. We talked about this, but I was befuddled. Like, going on the road to the Eagles and going on the road to the Buccaneers or the Rams, that feels like a huge difference to me. Do you agree? And do you understand, like, are you as against benching Jordan Love and benching, all the guys that they did, that the Packers did?
I mean, the Commanders benched Jaden Daniels. They played the rest of their starters, but they did sit. If I'm the Commanders, I'm not scared of the Eagles.
Yeah.
At all. Like, I have no fear about the Eagles. If I'm the Packers, maybe a little bit more. Maybe I'm worried about them, like, cutting off Jordan Love's kneecap and selling it on the black market, but...
Yeah, but, like, they also didn't play Josh Jacobs. They didn't play a lot of their wide receivers. Like, I know Christian Watson got hurt, but, like, I don't know.
It's a tough decision. That's why coaches get paid so much. You got to make these decisions. The GM's got to make these decisions. You got to come together as an organization to decide, do we want to be healthy going into the playoffs? Does that give us a better chance over seeding? Like, if we get into the 6th seed, but Jordan Love can't throw the fucking football, or Josh Jacobs has an ankle sprain and can't run very fast, that's probably more detrimental to your chances than just eating the 7th seed and going to the Eagles and playing in a tough environment.
Let me ask you this.
Against a team that you've competed against. Like, I don't think either of those teams are scared of the Eagles necessarily. The Packers have played really good defense. The Commanders have gone and beat the Eagles, and they played really well against them the other game that they played. So
yeah, let me ask you this. I want your thoughts, because this was something that popped in my head. Do you think the Packers bench all the people that they did and just live with the 7th seed if they didn't beat the Cowboys last year like they did? I think that gave them a lot of confidence going into the playoffs.
That's fair. I think what their plan was to kind of gauge at halftime if the Commanders were blowing out the Cowboys.
Yeah.
And then just bench. But I don't think they were probably expecting the Commanders to bench their guys too. And I mean the Cowboys were set to win this game. That you could probably find better D end contain in like a Vanderbilt Mississippi State game this past year. That was horrendous. That was actually terrible. Like I don't understand what the Cowboys. Is he a backup? I didn't see who it was. It looked like a backup. He was wearing like 35 playing defensive end. I don't think he was a major player.
We played most of our main guys, but...
And then the safety celebrating in the back that gave Mariota another 10 yards. I feel like that really encapsulates the Cowboys season there, that play. That was
that's probably fair.
Just... It was sad. It was sad to watch. And then the Packers. I don't know what the fuck LaFleur was doing at the end of the game. They have Jordan Love warming up on the sidelines like he's going to go back in, and then he doesn't. And then they run the ball. They throw that weird little comeback route that gets like 6 yards. They run the ball. It doesn't go anywhere. They run the ball again. Doesn't go anywhere. And then they call a timeout with 58 seconds left. And they give the Bears the ball back, and then they're playing like freaking.
They were playing like prevent defense. They were playing way too far.
They were playing like cover 9.
Yeah,
and then they get an easy pass across the middle, and they run up, and they have plenty of time to run up and spike the ball. It was, I don't know, just two really weird games where, I don't know. It feels like it all worked out probably how it should have. It would have been weird if the Packers like won this game with like Malik Willis and all the shit that happened with this game, and then the Commanders beating the Cowboys when Trey Lance is starting. I don't think Trey Lance needs a win on his record yet. He needs to go to the Canadian Football League or something to get one of those.
He looked fine in this game. Like, if I were a team with a running quarterback, I might look at him as a backup. I don't think he's the right backup for the Cowboys, but like, could he be the right Cowboy? Could he be the right backup for Lamar? Maybe. I don't know. Like, I feel like he fits into that role. Like the Tyler Huntley type role, right? Where it's like mobile quarterback who can throw the ball and kind of fit into that role. I think he has a career as a backup in the NFL. Plus, we've seen, last 3 years, we've seen, the likes of Geno Smith, Sam Darnold turn their careers around. I don't think it's like too late for Trey Lance.
Here's the thing. If the Jets don't want you because you played bad on the Jets, it's like, maybe it was the Jets' fault.
Yeah.
He was on the Niners, and the Niners didn't want him. And the Niners, like, Jimmy Garoppolo looked like a top 10 quarterback for like a year with the Niners. If the Niners don't want a quarterback, they had Sam Darnold. And they're like, this guy's decent.
Sam Darnold. They chose Brock Purdy over Sam Darnold. That's all I'm saying. Just throwing that out there.
You're telling me Brock Purdy wouldn't have done just as good than Vikings this year?
I don't know. It's tough to say.
I think he would have been fine. I think he would have been fine. So was Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy's better than this year. I don't like this.
I don't like this
at all.
I'm not a big Brock Purdy supporter, so
I like Brock Purdy. I think he's good. I think he's better than Sam Darnold.
I think Brock Purdy's about to get a ridiculous contract and about to be paid one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league, and I don't think he's that, and I don't think he ever will be that. So that's my personal opinion.
No, that's fair.
I have bigger issues with quarterbacks who get paid too much. Like, that's why I always hated Russ for the longest time. Because I was like, well, yeah, Russ is probably like a top, 5 quarterback in the league, but he's being paid as the number 1 quarterback in the league. He's never won an MVP. He's never even like been in the finalists for MVP. So it's like, that was always my hate for Russ.
But he was dating Ciara.
He was dating Ciara. But that doesn't gain him MVP votes. That's all I'm saying. I feel like that should. Does Future get an MVP in the NFL? Anyway,
he has an award. He has the thing. It's like NFL Futures. You know?
yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's true. All right, that kind of covers the NFC. The Rams lost. This feels weird. I don't know. I guess it doesn't really matter. I feel like those wildcard teams are pretty similar. Do you feel like one of the 3 wildcard teams in the NFC is like significantly better than the worst of the team and the worst of the teams in the wildcard picture?
I think the Vikings are certainly better than the Packers.
But do you think they're like significantly better? Is what I'm saying.
Not to the point where I would play Stafford, Williams, Nakua, and Kupp, considering Nakua and Kupp are basically wearing Band-Aids all over their body all the time. And Williams ran into the ground, and Stafford could break a rib any given snap. So
yeah. Now, obviously, if the Lions lost that, that's a different conversation. But like, yeah,
if the Lions lost that, I would have been ecstatic. That would have been a sick game.
It would have been Rams
awesome.
Lions, our manifestation. We could get a second round.
We didn't. Here's the thing, Nick. We didn't manifest it enough.
Yeah, we didn't get on it early enough.
We glazed over it.
Yeah,
we needed to glaze about it.
Yeah,
that's the
true.
issue.
We needed to be all over it. Yeah.
Is there
you should always glaze.
Yeah, you always glaze when you can glaze. Is there a possibility they match up next round? Is it just if it's chalk they play?
Yeah, if it's chalk they would play. Yeah.
All right. So, what's the 2-3?
Eagles and Buccaneers.
Ooh, okay. Yeah. As much as I like the Packers, you like the Commanders, so you're partial to the Commanders. I know they're in your division, so you're partial to Jaden Daniels.
I'm partial to Jaden Daniels, yeah.
I like the Packers. I like Jordan Love. I like Josh Jacobs. I like their little hodgepodge of running or wide receivers and whatnot.
Of a million wide receivers.
Yeah. Death by a million wide receivers. And I like the Packers, but man, Lions-Rams rematch. They played a great game the beginning of the year. They played a great game last year. We get part 3, McVay versus Goff, the Lions versus Stafford.
Yep.
Stafford getting rained with booze for whatever fucking reason as he runs into the stadium. Eminem showing up. Chauncey Billups showing up. Freaking Steven Jackson fighting people in the crowd even though he played for Indiana. You got to make a spectacle of it. And,
yeah.
And like we said last year, we could listen to 2 hours of pregame shit about this before the game, and I don't know. I wouldn't leave my recliner as long as I have a freaking IV of water and B12 vitamins stuck in my arm. So I would need.
On top of that, if that matchup happens, that means we get the Eagles-Bucks rematch.
Yeah. So we get the Eagles-Bucks. Last year, the Eagles in disarray. Dom's not on the fucking sidelines because he fought Dre Greenlaw. And you know what? Dre Greenlaw got what was coming to him for fighting with Dom.
A season-long injury? Jesus.
No, I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. Dre Greenlaw is an uber competitor. I'm astonished he even came back this year. Shout out to Dre Greenlaw. That was impressive. He probably shouldn't have played.
No, he shouldn't have.
It was incredibly impressive that he was even on an NFL field after tearing his Achilles in the last game of the season last year. Anyways, Dom, not on the sideline. Buccaneers come out. Just absolutely kick their ass. The Eagles look terrible. So what do the Eagles do? They take a look inward. They say, man, how do we get Dom back on the sidelines? Hire him as coach, man.
Yeah.
Or trainer. I don't know what his actual title is.
I don't even know. I feel like we're talking about this beginning of the year, and now we don't remember.
But he's on the sidelines again. The vibes are good.
He's getting Tanner McKee's ball back.
He's from a guy. He's peeling Nick Sirianni off of Zach Ertz.
True.
And he's just, the vibes are good there again. Even though A.J. Brown, will complain about not getting the ball every 5 games.
Yeah. I think he's probably due at this point.
No, it was like 2 or 3 games ago. He's gotten the ball a pretty good amount since then.
Okay. So NFC Championship game, he'll probably complain.
They win this game. But they run the ball like 30 times, and he gets like two catches on like 6 targets.
Yep.
He complains, and then they go into the Bucs game. There's the tension
Yep.
between A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts. They're friends. Their former teammates are saying they're friends, and that he's gonna renege his Godfather privileges or whatever. And just a whole bunch of stuff around the inner turmoil of the Eagles. And then the Bucs, Chris Godwin makes a miraculous comeback like Willis Reed in the finals.
All right, I'm cutting you off right there. Good manifestation right there. Chris Godwin comes back, and we get this incredible matchup. What an amazing ride that you just took us down. That's good manifesting, though. Listen, we needed to manifest it. Now we're manifesting it even harder. I still kind of hope that Jaden Daniels wins, because I think that'd be more fun. But at the same time, if Jaden Daniels wins, and then everything else happens, I don't know if you heard that. Everything just fell down on my desk. Yeah, if Jaden Daniels wins and then everyone else, like the higher seeds, win, then Jaden Daniels might just get absolutely murdered by the Lions, which I don't want to see. That could kill his confidence. So we'll see. Maybe he just loses. That'll be fine.
Yeah, I don't think you want Daniels to play the Lions.
Yeah, I don't
foresee that going well for the Commanders. I think
unless Jaden Daniels is him.
They have the spunk against the Eagles, because I feel like the Eagles have a little bit of like mental weakness to them. Like they're not like the most mentally tough team. And it's also like the younger brother type deal, the division rivalry. Like, I don't know. I don't think they have anything to take to the Lions. I just don't.
I agree.
See that any for them.
I agree. All right, that's the NFC. Let's talk about the AFC a little bit before we get into next week's wild card matchups. So
the NFC is just like worlds,
just way more fun,
more entertaining.
Yeah,
it's just way more fun.
Like, Chargers, Texans. You ready for this? Jesus Christ. Let's just talk about the wild card stuff, because this was the only really entertaining part, was just seeing if the Bengals could somehow sneak in. The Bengals win Saturday night against the Steelers in a really weird game. The Steelers just do not look good. But yet again, the Bengals should have beaten them by a lot more with how bad the Steelers looked, and they only won by 2. Their defense has stepped up the last couple weeks, though. But all of it is for naught, because the Broncos absolutely destroyed the Chiefs, 38-0. Obviously, the Chiefs not playing anyone, but the Broncos, they take care of business. Bo Nix, really good. Set that rookie record for most straight completions. I don't know. I mean, we'll get into their matchups a little bit more, but one, as a Broncos fan or former Broncos fan, I don't know how you ride anymore, but as a Broncos supporter, how do you feel about this team? And, just from a supporter side of things, how happy are you to be back in the playoffs?
Yeah, it's not. First order of business is that they just need to change to those uniforms full time.
Sure. Yes,
they're probably top 3 uniform in the NFL. It's just it's such a good throwback. I understand why you have to change. I will grant a team, unless it's the Niners or the Bears, or even the Bears will change their logo from time to time. It's typically more subtle. The Niners, Steelers, the Raiders. There's classic logos that you don't touch. The Jets. The Broncos had a great logo. They changed it to the D with the horse. That was still a great logo. And then the 90s came around, Elway. You kind of got a new identity. I understand why they changed it.
I still like the new logo too.
I think it's a good logo. I think it's time where you've had this logo for a while. You have a new era. You have a new coach. You have a new quarterback. Your defense has a lot of young studs on it. I think you consider going back in time and kind of giving Denver that 80s feel and bringing it back to life. I like that idea. The uniforms are slick. They're pretty. They look good. They look fast. It's a nice aesthetic. And
I think those uniforms are the best non-black uniforms in the NFL. Like, the orange and blue isn't necessarily like the most difficult combo to pull off, but like it's definitely a more difficult combo. But that's like, I think those jerseys are the cleanest, just like black jerseys, like the Lions jerseys or something like that tonight, where it's like the pure black and then the blue that just pops off the thing, or the Ravens jerseys.
And then it pops.
And then it
Sorry.
pops like Brandon Curry on a tackle. If I really wanted to edit this for YouTube, I would put the Spurrier clip in right now, but the amount of editing that we'll be putting into YouTube is very minimal, so enjoy. But yeah, Broncos, take care of business. Great jerseys. How do you feel about them in the playoffs besides the jerseys and the logo?
Yeah, they're in the playoffs. They're gonna get their ass handed to them.
Yeah, probably. Here's the thing. They have a good defense. And
we have a good defense.
We're just pulling out classic YouTube references right now. They have a good defense.
I'm pretty sure he says offense, but
no, it's defense.
Is it defense? Okay.
Yeah. What do you say about your defense? What do you say about them saying your defense is weak? We have a good defense. Oh my gosh. Here's the thing. They have a good defense.
You gotta rewatch that before every playoffs, because it's just, it really gets you going. It really gets you hype.
It's one of the best videos of all time. I can't even continue anymore because all I want to do is, I think I got my swagger back. Oh my God, it's so good. They have a good defense. They have the defensive player of the year, in my opinion. I think if he doesn't win defensive player of the year, it's a little ridiculous because, they just don't like giving DBs defensive player of the year, in my personal opinion. But the key will be, one, how the temperature is in Buffalo. Obviously, Buffalo temperature in the wintertime, it's not great. So we'll see how that plays itself out. But
but it's not like the Chargers.
No, not at all.
Like it's a team that's still accustomed to playing cold football.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's not what I'm concerned about. I'm more concerned about the travel side of things. Denver to Buffalo is a pretty significant travel, so that's something to consider. I think if the Bills come out and they try and throw the ball and they try and just, let Josh Allen do his thing, I don't think they're going to have a lot of success in this game. I think the Broncos can hold in. But if they just try and dominate the run game with James Cook, get Josh Allen involved in the run and just use their receivers when need be, which has been their best recipe for success this year, I think that's where the Broncos will be in trouble. So
Yeah, I think when you look at the Bills going into this game, their strategy should be, we should have the ball for 36 minutes.
Yes.
Time of possession should be 36 minutes. We're going to win this game.
Yes.
Because the Broncos are not a quick-hitting offense. They'll make their deep plays. They'll have their big plays every now and then. But they are not a time of possession team.
Exactly.
They're not going to dominate it. And if you can keep their defense on the field and wear them out, that's how you're going to beat the Broncos. You're not going to beat the Broncos by having 3 and outs, by having 2 first down drives and flailing out at the 50-yard line. I don't know. I don't think the Bills' defense is amazing.
No.
I feel like they're in a much weaker division. I feel like they've played worse teams throughout the season.
I think that's fair.
So the Broncos haven't really beaten anybody good. This is the best record team that they've beaten, too. The rest of their teams is a smattering of 5-win, 6-win teams. And they don't have a history this year of beating good teams. The best team they've beaten is the Bucs in the 3rd week of the season. So we'll see. I like the Broncos. I'm glad they're back in the playoffs. They're young. This is kind of the start for them. We'll see where they build the team out from here. It's concerning that you have a quarterback like Bo Nix, where you're I don't know if this guy's a Super Bowl winner now or in the future, but he's good enough to get you in the playoffs. It's kind of where my head's at, because he's an old, if he was 21, 22, you kind of have a different perspective. But since he's 24, 25, it's a bit different when you think about his future. You're looking at the next 4 years, what he can do on his rookie contract before you have to pay him. If he's going to continue to play like this, he's going to be a 40 million guy, most likely, in the future. And so that really limits what you can do as a team. If you have a top 15 quarterback who's getting paid top 10 money, it hinders your team building a little bit.
Yeah. And this
I really
matchup
want-
will tell us a lot.
yeah,
Road game
it will
against
tell us a
Buffalo.
lot. Last road game, the young up and coming Broncos quarterback played in went pretty well for them against a team that they had no business beating. So
That is true.
you never know.
Yeah, that's fair.
I really wanted to tell the fans of the pod my my Bengals Steelers analysis. My what was a metaphor, I guess? My simile.
Oh, yeah. Here, let me do this real quick because I want to touch
Okay.
on the Bills for a second. You talked about kind of their record, right? So they're 13-4. Obviously, they lost today to the Patriots. Just throwing that out, benched everyone. There are 3 losses on the year outside of that are at Ravens, at Texans, at Rams. 3 road matchups against playoff teams.
Mhm.
The wins that they have, obviously they beat the Chiefs at home and they won at the Lions. Those are 2 very impressive wins. But the rest of their wins, 2 against the Jets, 2 against the Dolphins, 1 against the Patriots, 49ers, Colts, Seahawks, Titans, Jaguars, Cardinals. It's not necessarily the most impressive win. So to your point about, playing in the weaker division, stuff like that, yeah, they've beaten everyone that they put in front of them, but, they lost the 3 games on the road against tough matchups. Those are hard, but they also beat the 2-1 seeds in both conferences. So it's this weird mix of them where it's like we've seen them play the top teams and they beat them. We've seen them play other playoff teams on the road and lose to them, and then we've seen them play a bunch of trash. So I don't really know how to establish the Bills right now. I feel like we're going to be able to tell a lot based off next week's matchup because if
Here's
they
the
get
thing,
rolling,
is
Go
that
ahead.
they are very similar to the Chargers in their build and their composition,
yeah, true.
and the Broncos have had a tremendous difficulty with the Chargers. And that might be like a history thing, like they've not played well against the Chargers over the past 8 years, pretty much. But yeah, I don't like their odds at all. So
Yeah. All right,
we'll
do
see.
your Bengals Steelers thing so we could do a in memoriam for the 2024 Cincinnati Bengals team.
So this game was a very weird game. If you sat and watched it, just odd vibes all around. The Bengals kind of just like flailing. They had commanding lead, and then they just were not doing anything. Russ was dropping the ball every snap. George Pickens was dropping the ball every time it was thrown at him. And the Steelers definitely had something at stake this game. They went from playing the Ravens. They could have gone from playing the Ravens to playing the Texans. And instead, they dropped this game. But what I was saying is that this game really felt like, at the end of the semester, like the last day of the semester in high school, you'd have like 1 or 2 finals, The Bengals were failing both of those classes. And so they like studied their ass off because they didn't want to have to retake the class. And the Steelers were like, they had like a C or like a low B. And they had a very small chance to get an A. But they also had a very low chance of getting a D. And so it was just a weird feeling. Like it was just like, when you go into the last day of school, like everything's like kind of off. And that's how I felt watching this game. It felt like the last day of school. Like something was missing. I don't know.
Yeah, something was missing, and it's the Bengals in the playoffs. Because I wanted the Bengals to make the playoffs. I think they have arguably been the most entertaining offensive team in all of football this year. I think it's like them and the Lions are probably like 1-2. Maybe Commanders are in there just because of Jaden Daniels. But like this team has been so much fun to watch offensively. And it's kind of a shame that they're not making the playoffs, especially with the potential of, them like somehow winning a first round matchup and then getting the Chiefs or something. Like getting that Chiefs Bengals rematch with how the Bengals have been playing. It just had, that little bit of extra, je ne sais quoi to it.
Had some Dijon, some mustard
Exactly.
on it.
Exactly.
Yeah, for
it
sure.
It was very enticing. And, I'm just gonna say it. I think it edged a lot of people. I think a lot of people were just kind of edging, waiting for the Bengals to get there, and it just never happened. So it sucks, but incredible season by the Bengals. We'll see what they do in the offseason. Do you think Zach Taylor goes? Do you think they fire him? I don't know.
I wish with every fiber of my being that they would, but I know they won't.
Imagine
nothing would make me happier than giving fucking Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins,
Yep.
Ben Johnson as a head coach. That would be. It wouldn't matter who you could fucking stick me and Nick at the cornerback position. They're scoring 60 points a game.
That would be so awesome.
It wouldn't matter who's on defense.
Yeah.
But instead, they have freaking, like, Mr. Potato Head Zach Taylor. Like, I don't get it. He sucks. He sucks. Just fire him. Fire the GM. Hire freaking who's I don't know GMs in the NFL.
Yeah, do I?
Hire the Masai
Jerry Jones, I think.
Hire the Masai Ujiri of the NFL.
Yeah.
Steal the fucking. I mean, the Bengals don't have money to throw around. They don't have FU money.
Yeah. That's the
so
only...
they can't steal somebody's GM. Because the GM you would steal would be Howie Rosen. That would be the one that I would target.
But
other than that,
leave.
Yeah.
Here's the thing.
Who's like a legendary Ed Reed?
What if you could you get Sean McVay to be a GM instead of a coach? Similar like a Brad Stevens type deal, you know?
Has he been the GM for the Rams?
No, but I'm just saying like Brad Stevens in the NBA.
I think
just went from coach to executive.
I think you just take Sean McVay to be your coach. Like if you're going to steal him, just take Sean McVay to be the coach.
No. You get Ben Johnson to be the coach, and then you get McVay to be GM.
But he has no GM experience. Okay.
It's a Brad Stevens situation.
Yeah, but that's he went to the same team. He just stepped down from being the coach and went to the basketball operations side.
Yeah, that's fair.
And he had experience in both of those areas because he built Butler by finding diamonds in the rough and recruiting.
So promote Zach Taylor to GM and then hire Ben Johnson. Does that work? I think that makes sense. All right, let's do wild card. Oh wait, let's do Pookie of the week.
And then next year the Bengals make it to the Super Bowl, but then fucking Ben Johnson was cheating on his wife with
Joy Taylor.
Dude, I totally forgot I was gonna do a Joy Taylor joke to open up.
Oh, damn it. We here at Every Sport Today do not have any affiliation with Fox Sports Network, which means that we did not have any fornication with Joy Taylor. Now, do we wish? There you go. That's our official comment as an Every Sport Today podcast. All right, Pookie of the week. No fantasy football, but who's your go-to Pookie this week?
We didn't even touch on the fucking AFC matchups, dude.
Yeah, we talked. I mean, we're going to do a preview. Oh, wait. Do I? I thought we'd do Pookie of the week and then matchups. Do I have it backwards? Do we do Pookie of the week last?
We'll do Pookie of the week.
Just do Pookie of the week.
I don't really have one.
I have a generational one.
Go
for it.
You go.
You go first.
I don't have one, so you tell me yours while I think of mine.
All right, I'll go first. My Pookie of the week, and this could be another Pookie of the year because we did that on the last podcast. Scott motherfucking Hansen. I fucking love that guy. He's not going to be on my screen for a while. I posted the quote from Dr. Seuss, don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened. And then this motherfucker came on the broadcast and ended his last Red Zone of the season with that exact same fucking quote. That's why I love Scott Hansen. He's the GOAT. Also, I have the same mind as Scott Hansen, and I could probably do Red Zone someday, but that's for the future. Yes, fucking love Scott Hansen. That's my Pookie of the week. Backup Pookie of the week and also Pookie of the year is Maria Taylor. No further comments. Go ahead with your Pookie of the week.
No relation to the other one.
Yeah, no relation.
Oh, shit. You know what? I'm going to go with Bryce Young.
Yeah, it's a good one.
3 touchdown passes, 2 rushing touchdowns, 3 3 passing touchdowns, 3 rushing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns. God, I
Yeah.
can't speak. Saved my life. Just a really impressive game. Really impressive turnaround from the kid. You love to see it. You love a comeback story. No Kim Kardashian. And it was just it was a great season from the Panthers. Were probably like one of the top 10 more entertaining teams on the second. They were
100%.
in games all over the place, and their games were exciting and they were fun to watch, and a lot of them actually mattered. This game mattered. The Buccaneers game that they played earlier this year mattered, because if the Bucs don't win that game, they don't get in playoffs. So
100%.
like they basically were a huge factor in the NFC South, and they made those games exciting. They made probably like winning the NFC South is like winning the
The
I don't
AFC
know.
South?
Fair enough. It's
Winning
just,
the NFC South.
it's a
That's funny.
non-luxurious
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
to win.
Exactly.
The NFL Southern conferences are starting to feel like the actual South in the United States. It's just really impoverished,
Yeah.
lack of education,
No one
lack
knows
of
what's going on
resources,
down there, you know?
possibly something in the water.
I think that's fair.
Xavier Leggette's walking around talking about raccoon meat and shit,
I was going to say
drinking
this. Can
porcupine
Bryce-
milk and catching
Should
lizards
Bryce
with
Young-
anteaters.
Should Bryce Young win Comeback Player of the Year? Because I don't know of another Comeback Player of the Year. It seems like Sam Darnold's going to get it, but that's not really like a comeback player. Like, it's weird. I would have just give it to Bryce Young. That's a good comeback.
I think it should go to Joe.
Yeah.
I mean, like his arm was like very concerning. Like no one
Couldn't
knew
throw
if he
for
was
3
going to be
straight
able to
days.
throw. Yeah.
I remember talking about that for weeks and weeks, and he was the best quarterback in the NFL this year. One of the best quarterbacks in the NFL.
He
right.
he was
He
the
was the
best.
best quarterback in the NFL. Yeah.
He was the best.
He was incredible.
He played up to the standard that we have expected him to play in his
Yeah.
prime.
God,
So-
why isn't this team in the playoffs? It pisses me off. We got a full season of Joe Burrow, and he's not making the playoffs. That sucks. That actually sucks. Damn it. All right, wild card. Let's get to it. The Chargers, Texans, the Shakey's game, the Shakey's Bowl for Bill Simmons viewers out there. I think I saw something on Twitter that was like every Texans playoff game since 2000 and I think since the year 2000 has been in this time slot, the 2:30 Saturday game, which is just hilarious to me. This is always given to the worst game, but the Chargers are actually favored on the road against the Texans. How do you feel about this matchup? Who do you have? Who you got?
I think the Chargers. Yeah, their defense is unreal, and
Their defense is
Stroud
unreal.
has not played well against good defenses this year at all. Like the Vikings, Packers just got absolutely demolished those games. I have zero to little faith in him at this point. He's lost his two of his top 3 receivers. The other guys on his team couldn't create separation if they had a pair of scissors. And
Do you separate
Man.
things with scissors?
like one side of the piece of paper from the other. I was trying to think. Like a zipper.
Yeah, zipper works. Like pliers.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, shit, I just broke this little cactus.
You
Stop
should.
playing with stuff.
Yeah, you should
Um,
stop playing with shit.
To touch on a game that had zero relevance to anything and no one probably watched,
Yeah,
it is just such an insult that the Tennessee Titans are wearing the Houston Oilers uniforms in those games. That should not be allowed. That should be illegal.
I agree.
I think they should sell the rights to the Houston Oilers back. They can keep the history, even though the whole Houston Oilers never really won anything. They can keep the history, but just give it back. It doesn't feel right. I don't even think
agree.
there's oil derricks in Tennessee, so it's just a weird
It's-
feeling.
It's like the what's the team that does it in hockey? There's a team that does the Hartford Whalers in hockey, and it always feels like really awkward. I don't like that.
Like if the OKC Thunder came out
Yeah,
and wore supersonic stuff, it'd just be weird.
yeah,
Or like the Arizona Cardinals
exactly.
or like Chicago Bears stuff. I don't think that would really fit.
I wonder how people from Quebec feel about the Nordiques being moved to Colorado, because they won a championship like really shortly after. So I feel like they'd be okay with that, you know? Like they won a
No,
championship like
I
right
think
before they left
it,
and then like right after they left, you know?
I think when they leave, they turn on the team because it's the
Yeah.
ownership. Like the ownership is typically who the fans point to as like the overarching like the system of the team.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's like the Cronkies own the Nuggets. Like if they sold them or if they moved, we would be mad at
We'd
the
be pissed. Yeah,
Cronkies.
exactly.
So it's
That makes sense.
whatever.
All right, the Saturday night game, the Ravens Steelers. Feels like we have seen these two teams play on Saturday night for a month and a half now. Like, how many times have they played on Saturday nights now or on Christmas? But these teams have played a couple times within the last like 6 weeks, obviously splitting the series. But the Ravens are at home, where they just beat the Steelers 34-17 a couple weeks ago. Do you see this being any different of a result than what we saw a couple weeks ago?
No, the Steelers are in complete disarray. They really needed to win that game for just a single morsel of morale.
Exactly.
They just don't. They look so off. George Pickens can't catch anything. I get it was cold, but man, just absolute stone hands, dude. He looked terrible. He looked god awful. And their defense really hasn't been getting to the quarterback as much. They're not applying the same amount of pressure. And teams are scoring on them, and they're not scoring. Russ was just brain dead and ran the clock out instead of throwing the ball away. Just a weird team. Really weird team. They need a change. I don't know if it's the Mike Tomlin thing. They don't have a quarterback. It's really hard to blame a coach who gets a team with a shit quarterback to the playoffs year in and year out. Like, it's hard to let a guy like that go.
They haven't had a quarterback since what, 2018, 2017?
Probably 2017.
Yeah.
Roethlisberger wasn't good in 2018.
Yeah. And they've still made the playoffs every year.
The thing about the Steelers is that if you were going to make a change at the head coaching position, it would be after the years of not succeeding in the playoffs when you had all-star guys at several different offensive positions saying, hey, we're stagnating. We can't do anything. Now it's like you have this whole history with Tomlin, and he is getting the team. He's getting more out of the team than you are giving him. And so when you're in that position, it's really hard to let the guy go.
It would have been like last year or 2 years ago that they would have had to let it go.
As soon as the team is underperforming what you give the coach, that is when you start making changes.
Yeah.
But this is more of a team building thing and a team scheme thing than it has anything to do with the coach. You can't win with Russell Wilson as your quarterback. Like, you can win 10 games, clearly. He didn't win all of them. I think Justin Fields won, 3 or 4 of them? Right?
Yeah, something like that. I don't know.
So, I don't know what you do at this point if you're the Steelers.
I agree.
It's a legendary franchise. It's good to see them be competitive, and they have talent on the defensive end of the field. But their offense is just... You got a running back who you spent high draft capital on. He can't average more than 4 yards a carry in a season. It's impossible. What's his face? Joe Buck was like, well, Najee Harris has got 4 straight 1,000-yard rushing seasons. And Troy was like,
I don't care.
He's like, whatever the fuck.
Yeah, it was so funny.
He still sucks. Like, he's not good. That's what's crazy about this offseason is that Najee Harris is literally like going to be the best running back on the market.
Najee Harris and Rico Dowdle are going to be the best running backs available. When last year it was Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, and Aaron Jones.
So someone's going to go out there and pay Najee Harris like $8 million a year for him to be utterly just not good.
Exactly.
Who do you think signs? Who do you think signs Najee? I'm looking here. I could see the Raiders.
I could see like the Chargers taking a stab at one of the running backs too.
That's fair. Yeah, the Chargers or the Raiders.
Saints maybe, if Kamara's done. All right. Ravens favored by 9.5 in that game. That's the highest spread in the first round of the wild card weekend. I think they picked every game perfectly for where they are. I think, the Saturday games are perfect. The Sunday games are perfect. I just think the time slots, they pick the right games. So I'm actually happy with the NFL. Broncos-Bills is the early game on Sunday. Bills are favored by 9 at home. We kind of talked about this matchup already. Don't need to go into too much detail on it. Bills are 8-0 at home. They're a juggernaut. If the Broncos can get them out of their game plan and get them to throw the ball a lot, then I think they have a shot. But outside of that, I don't really see a possibility here. Do you have anything else to add on that matchup? Patrick Surtain, really good. All right. Packers-Eagles. Packers are on the road at the Eagles. We kind of talked about this matchup a decent amount too. Philadelphia's favored by 4.5, right in the Vegas zone for it. Who do you have in this matchup? Do you see the Packers being able to do anything here?
I don't know. It seems like Jordan Love got one of those stingers again. I
Yeah.
don't remember which quarterback had it a couple weeks ago. Just like a funny bone type deal. He'll probably be good for next week. I think it depends on who owns the line of scrimmage, man. These are two teams that have really heavily relied on the run. The Packers' game plan is pretty much go out, score, give Josh Jacobs the ball 12 times in the first drive, score a touchdown, control the game from there. That's not really what the Eagles have done. The Eagles are more of like a fighter. It's like four rounds. They take in the first round. They're waiting, sitting on punches, seeing really what the other team's strategy is, and then they come out in the second half of the fight and just start throwing blows. Hurts, rust factor could be a thing. He hasn't played in 3 weeks. He did suffer a pretty serious concussion, it seemed like. And we'll see if that affects their chemistry. Coming off of not playing for 3 weeks does hurt. And then you got all the rest of their guys having rested. The Packers are probably a little bit more game ready, I would say. I think it's very similar to the Broncos-Bills. The Eagles are going to want to control the ball. They're going to want to have the time of possession. I think their goal should be to get Saquon 30 carries. It's the playoffs. Who the fuck cares? Give them the ball, control the clock, run down the Packers defense, keep them on the field, get them tired. You don't want to give Jordan Love opportunities to make big plays and to have the ball at the end of the game, pretty much.
Agreed. I'm giving out my lock of the week right now. Ready? Packers.
How did our locks of the week do last year? Or last week? Do we even do any?
I don't know. That was last year. We don't even worry about last year. Last year's results don't matter.
I meant last week.
I know, but I'm just taking it into a new year, new me. My gambling losses don't matter last year. Here's my lock of the week. You ready?
I guess you're technically right. It is last year. I didn't
exactly.
Even think about that.
Yep. Lock of the week. Packers to win the first half, Eagles to win the game. Because of exactly what you said. Packers feel like they always start the first drive off, run the ball 8 times with Josh Jacobs, get the ball into the end zone for a touchdown. Jalen Hurts might come out a little bit cold, a little bit sloppy, a little bit, just trying to get back into it. I like how the Packers kind of start games. The Packers usually start games pretty well, and it's because they are typically able to dominate the run. The only thing that would counteract that is the Eagles' defense, but there's been more secondary that's been the best part of their team. Their line has been good, but listen, if the Packers can dominate the run on the first possession, if they can kind of establish that and Jalen Hurts comes out and starts a 3-and-out or something like that, Packers do the exact same thing on the next drive, start 14-0. I wouldn't mind Packers winning the first half and then the Eagles will win the game because eventually the Eagles will figure it out. They'll start feeding Saquon and they'll be perfectly fine later in the game. It feels like it might just take a game for the Eagles to adjust, or it might just take a half for the Eagles to adjust and they'll be perfectly fine after that. So that's something to keep an eye out for. I would bet that. If I was in a state with gambling, I would bet that immediately, actually. So that's my lock of the week.
I think of any team in the playoffs right now, the Eagles have the best build on defense to shut down the Packers.
True. Yes.
They go ahead.
In hindsight, the Packers should still be able to run the ball on them decently because they'll have to respect the pass enough. In my eyes, fair. But yeah. But yeah, I agree.
The thing about the Eagles is that they do feel like they're on the same page this year.
Yeah,
they do have a different vibe. They do feel like more of a team. and they're rallying around. Like Sirianni does seem like kind of like the kindred spirit that he was the year they went to the Super Bowl instead of kind of like the burnout that he was last year.
Yeah,
like,
that is fair.
They do seem to be rallying around him this year much more than they did last year. So
Makes sense.
that is something that I'm optimistic about when it comes to the Eagles.
Yeah, completely fair. All right, Commanders, Bucks. Bucks are favored by 3.5. You talked about this line to me, said it was interesting to say the least. Where are you taking this matchup? This is a good Sunday night game. High explosive offense.
3.5 is high.
Yeah,
for the Bucks. It's high.
That's how I feel.
I feel like this should be like 1.5 for the Bucks. Just the 1.5 home game boost.
That's how I feel.
Pretty
I feel
much.
like the Commanders are a better team.
I honestly think they are too. I think this is, you call it even, and then you say, all right, Bucks are at home. They've got more playoff experience. Give them a 1.5.
Yep. That's how I feel.
I don't know. If I wanted to bet on any of these games, I would be betting the Commanders to cover. Maybe combine it. Like a Commanders cover or Commanders to win, and then the Bills to do something. I don't know, or add like 3 points to the Commanders and add 3 points to the Bills. Do it like a 3-point tease or something with those two teams.
I wouldn't mind that. You could also, like, in my eyes, I feel like this game's going to start pretty slow when it's two high-powered offenses just because of nerves, Jaden Daniels' first playoff game, stuff like that. I just feel like there's going to be a lot of stuff that's going to start this game off slow. So I feel like a first half under is like something that I would look at in this game. I don't know. Jaden Daniels' first playoff game, Buccaneers feel like once they get in a groove, they're unstoppable, but it feels like sometimes it takes them a little bit to get in a groove. So this is an interesting matchup to me because, it's two high-powered offenses. Obviously, the over-under is 50.5. It's the highest of the playoff. It's the highest of the wild card weekend. So you would expect that to be over, but, those teams could start off slow. You never know. So I don't know. This is a weird matchup. But I like it. This one's going to be fun.
A lot of red.
Yeah. Are you going Commanders or Bucks? Who are you picking? Just to win.
Bucks. Got to manifest.
And I'll pick Commanders because Jaden Daniels is better than you. Vikings, Rams. Vikings are favored by 2.5 on the road in Inglewood and SoFi Stadium. They are the second road favorite. Usually, I feel like we don't really have a lot of road favorites, but it kind of makes sense with these 4 or 5 matchups. But Vikings, Rams. Vikings are favored in this matchup by 2.5. Who do you have? This is a fun one. Didn't they play a couple weeks ago?
They played like the 5th or 6th game of the season. It was the Vikings, where they had the face mask.
Yeah, week 7.
The end zone.
Yeah, week 7. Rams beat the Vikings by 10 points.
And
this kind of felt like
that was really the I can't think of the catalyst.
Yeah,
the catalyst for the Rams season.
I agree. Yeah, that's what
they beat.
Exactly
they beat a team that was 5-1 going into that game, 6-1.
Yeah,
a huge win for the Rams.
Massive.
The Rams have looked really unstoppable on offense since then. Their offense has just been purring, like unreal.
Yeah,
and
they get the extra week of rest when the Vikings didn't.
They had nothing to play for, and I think they were comfortable. And you asked me this. You said, "Why are the Rams sitting their guys?" I think they were comfortable with either team that they got.
I think they were just happy to have a home game, and they felt like they could compete however they needed to.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know. Seems like a good time of year. You're sitting in Minnesota. You got some money to blow. It's like freaking 6 degrees. Well, let's take a little weekend trip to LA.
The only problem is the game's on a Monday, though. So you'd have to take off work, probably that Monday, Tuesday. Couple PTO days to start the year. Not the worst idea in the world.
Work schmirk.
Just call in sick. You're fine.
Nah, I mean the people who are going to be flying from Minnesota, they're either retirees or
true,
or they're people who can afford to take a couple of days off of work.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I expect there to be there's a lot of Minnesotans out here in Arizona driving across the border.
Yeah, they split their time,
Yeah.
Spend the winters down in Arizona, spend the summers up in Minnesota. Makes sense. What do you have in the matchup?
I think it's going to be 50-50. I really want the Rams to win. Really want the Rams to win. Going to manifest it. Rams winning. I think they do something similar to what the Lions did. The Lions got away with a lot of man coverage. Don't know how. Against Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson. I think the Rams might be able to pull that off. We'll see. I really like the Rams offense.
The more I keep looking at this, the more I like the Rams. A week off, home game, Vikings coming off of like an embarrassing loss almost. Like I would consider this loss pretty embarrassing. They just played really bad. I don't know if they were holding stuff back. Aaron Jones seems banged up. It feels like a lot of their guys are just tired. Everything about this matchup screams the Rams to me. So I'm going to the Rams too. Not just for a manifestation purpose, but like I actually think the Rams are going to win. It's a good money line bet.
Solid.
Not a bad money line bet either. All right. That is this week's action. Fun week of wild card football ahead of us, and then we got the divisional rounds. We only have a couple more weeks left of NFL football before it's over. No more red zone. We have individual games from here on out, but we will be back. We're probably going to have to wait till Monday night, right?
Yeah.
To record? Yeah, we're going to want to wait till after everything. So moving forward, it'll be after whatever the last game is. I think this is the last Monday night game, right? The rest are just, 2 Saturday, 2 Sunday next week, and then conference championships both Sunday. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, Monday next week, and then Sundays after that, unless we need an extra day or something like that. Like if the Chiefs make the Super Bowl, Jacob's probably going to want another day after that because he'll not want to talk about the Chiefs. So just keep that in mind. We'll see how the schedule plays itself out, but it'll be there eventually. We'll figure it out.
If they win by like 20, it's fine. It's the fact that they give you, like, the Patriots would beat teams in a lot. Like they would play games where they just like it was over. Like the Chiefs don't do that, and they haven't really lost since the Bucks. So I'm really who would they play in the next round theoretically?
The Chiefs?
Yeah. Be the Texans or the Chargers?
It would. Yeah. I mean, Ravens, Bills should win. So yeah, Texans, Chargers at home. So
I even though the Chargers are cursed, something about Jim Harbaugh. I don't know what it is.
Hey, if they win one playoff game, get the monkey off.
It might be the Joe Paterno glasses. I don't know what it is, but
who knows?
They got some good voodoo. It seems like this year.
I agree. And if they win one playoff game,
I think they could beat the Chiefs. I think they can beat the Chiefs.
It's possible.
They played them really well earlier this year. They mismanaged their time. Just if you have the ball with 8 minutes left, 10 to 8 minutes left, you have to score before 6 minutes. And then you either, if they don't score by like the 3-minute mark, you just play really soft zone and let them score, and then you get the ball back to end the game. Like, you cannot give them the ball to end the game because you are not going to win, because they will get to at least. But here's the other thing that I noticed, and that you might have noticed too. We've seen some struggles from kickers coming back from injuries.
Yeah.
Butker missed a kick today.
Could cost them big.
Could end up costing them down. If they continue, they've been getting to buy on this. They're just scratching by with these random ass kickers, and now they're back to their main guy. Even though the backups have been playing well, he's coming back from injury. I don't know. I feel like he could definitely miss a kick that we're used to seeing him make. And it would just be, it'd be up there with like Susan B. Anthony with the women's rights stuff.
Jesus. Okay, sure. I mean,
Susan B. Anthony, actually, noted hater of black people. So
yeah, that's fair.
She did not want black people to have the right to vote. So
yeah.
If you're a champion of Susan B. Anthony, just keep
remember that
in mind.
Yeah. It's like I feel like you could find something on every like historical figure, but it's like the Christopher Columbus stuff where everyone celebrates Columbus Day, when in reality Christopher Columbus was one of the most fucked up people of all time. Chargers also 34, 40, and 34 in the last 3 games. Feels like their offense is clicking at the right time. So
Yeah, we should really have a Genghis Khan day because he kind of saved us from overpopulation.
that is true, actually. Shout out Genghis Khan. All right. That does it for the podcast. Do we have anything else? No, nothing else. We're good. We've gone over. Hey, first YouTube video. More ads.
Yeah, we're getting ad supported for sure.
Exactly. That was the entire purpose of this, to just create longer podcasts for ads.
What we need is we need a good thumbnail.
Just kidding. I'm not editing a thumbnail. You think I'm doing
Joe
this shit?
Burrow sucks.
I think what I'm going to do is just put the Every Sport Today logo as every thumbnail, maybe like a number in the bottom for the episode that we're on. Then again, I don't know what episode we're on at this point. We'll see. We'll figure it out. I don't really care. It is what it is. We're just doing YouTube just to do YouTube. I don't have any actual expectations for it.
Exposure is exposure.
Exactly.
That's what Joy Taylor thinks. So.
What a beautiful way to end it. Thank you, Sir Jakey Tutties. Knighted in Cabo this past weekend. Congratulations again on that. We will see you guys next week. Goodbye.